Welcome to Secura Law Experience. I'm Luis Elizalde, founder of Secura Law. I'm here with...
Stephanie de la Millar.
And Eduardo Borgard.
Great, this is a new episode, but before we start, I want to say thank you to Danta Visual about our new intro. It's amazing. We love it. Thank you so much, Charlie. Now, we are going to talk today about closing costs for the buyers. Something we're going to do the breakdown of all the concepts, so they will be aware of all the payment that they have to do. Who want to start?
Yes. No, I mean, the main idea here is that when you see a calculation of closing cost, you have an idea about a previous idea about what items it should be mentioned there. I'm sorry for my voice today.
No worries. I mean, the important part really is that people that are interested in investing know the cost of acquiring that property here. So this is why we're going to go over all those expenses. So you already know not the specific amounts because they may change from closing to closing, but the items that are important for you to acquire that, right?
I think the most important is the notary public and the trust.
Yeah.
If they have an attorney, of course they have to pay the attorneys, and also if they have escrow, it's an escrow. But the most important that for sure they have to pay is the notary public and the trustee bank. Exactly. So I think the best thing is to start with the notary public because sometimes they feel like the notary public is very expensive, but the faculties that the notary has to retain all the taxes and payment to get the record that title is also something that is going to be in that closing cost, So
yes, we previously explained in another episode what a notary does and why it's so expensive. So go there and you can see exactly what it means to be a notary in Mexico. That being said,
the first item is the public registry notice. It's prevented notice, in which are two of them. The first one is before the closing, and the second one is after the closing.
I mean, something to think about is that the notary public is actually divided into two charts. Right?
Yeah, good.
That will
good
be
one.
A good explanation. Even though you pay one amount to the notary, that is divided between what the notary charges for that service, and the rest is what the notary has to pay on your behalf to the government institution, to the municipality, to the public registry, taxes, everything, right? And the first one of those items is the registry notices. As Luis mentioned, these are very important because this will give you an assurance, maybe like some sort of insurance, that the transaction is being handled correctly, because that first notice is going to protect you from a lot of troubles during the transaction, because it locks up the property legally.
Simple way to explain it is that they block the unit 30 days before the closing, and the second prevent notice is 90 days after. So you have like 4 months that your property is blocked. That, as you said, it's an insurance saying that the process is doing correctly. And I think that's it. I mean, with the first.
Yeah, the important part is, as a summary, nothing can happen to that property. Nobody can sue the seller for that property. It cannot have any liens on it. Nothing legally could put in jeopardy that investment, right? That's the important part that you need to understand, right? The second one is the certificate of no liens, and his name says it. It will certify and assure you guys that there is no lien, and sometimes from closing to closing, the notary issue a certificate of liens.
Yeah.
Right? It's depending on the actual closing, that's what it is.
And they don't have to be worried because just the trust is a lien. So if you request, if already the property has a trust, when you request this certificate, you are going to have a certificate with lien, meaning the trust of that seller.
Exactly.
So nothing to worry about.
As long as we see what the lien is, because there's bad ones and good ones, so that it's not mandatory that it's a certificate of no liens. The next one.
No, I wanted to outline there that, I mean, you need an attorney that makes sure that if there is any lien, there is a way or a prevention at the promissory contract to cancel that lien. That is very important. The notary is not responsible to assure that every lien will be canceled.
Like a mortgage.
Exactly.
Exactly.
They don't have that responsibility, but your lawyer does. Does it? Sorry, does the responsibility to cancel that lien.
Awesome. But go for dessert.
Oh yeah. I think it's the best part. It's the acquisition tax.
Not exactly for the buyer, but exactly they have to understand this one.
Yes, I mean this is the main cost. That is why the closing costs are expensive. It's because even though we are starting with 3% of the value of the property, that will be charged as part of the closing cost.
I know something that in Canada, when they buy a property, they tell this tax,
Welcome
tax.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Welcome to your new life with a house, you know? But now we have here is the acquisition tax, Canadian from Quebec, Montreal. It's your welcome tax, like that.
Yeah, actually, I had a Zoom meeting with Canadians actually like 2 days ago,
Yes.
and I was explaining this exact same thing to them, and they said that
It's a welcome.
we have a welcome tax here. And what I answered to them is that, well, if you can think about this as a welcome tax here, but not really, because even us Mexicans, we have to pay the same tax, same percentage, same everything. Now, the difference is, I told them, okay, you have your welcome tax, but how much property tax do you pay every year?
Exactly.
And they said, no, I mean, we would pay next to 1%, 1.5, depending on the location, right?
Exactly.
And I said, well, we do have a welcome tax here, but guess what? The property tax is 0.0019 more numbers, but it's basically peanuts to the dollar.
Yeah, totally. And
So-
you have a discount.
If you pay early. So it's a big difference, right? Because this tax, you pay it at first only one time, but during the years that you have the property, you don't have to pay much property tax.
So that's something really, really good
Mm-hmm.
to understand. Then we have almost everything related to the public registry and notary expenses. That is like ownership update. Okay, that's with the municipality. But also that's the payment and go normally with the acquisition tax. Issue cost, recording title fee, register copies, and protocol cost, everything related to the expenses that the notary needs, for example, to get the big books, the pages, to sign, everything like that. I don't know if you want to say something special with that.
Well,
No,
the
I mean-
appraisal. It would
I
be-
didn't say the appraisal because that's...
but it's the ownership update that belongs to the municipality, but it has to be issued or paid with the acquisition tax. That is why the notaries have to include it. That means that now the municipality has the obligation to update your ownership in their own system, but it's something that the notary won't do for you. They will pay the ownership update, but they won't go to the municipality to request the update in the system. That is a task that you have to take care of by
But-
yourself.
But you know what? That's here in Playa del Carmen. In Tulum, they don't request the payment of the ownership for the title. So sometimes you pay the acquisition tax, but you never pay the ownership. It's not too much, you know. It's like 400 pesos. Not really too much. When you get your title, you go to the municipality and pay that change, and that's it. That for sure.
I have seen different criteria over that in Tulum.
Yeah, no,
That-
but the thing is that they don't request that. Normally, they request everything like that for the acquisition tax or ISABI. But in Tulum, maybe the notaries, for a property in Tulum, they charge for that, but they not include it. You can see in all the titles.
O sea, that it's not paid
No, they
with
keep the money.
acquisition tax.
They keep the money. Sorry to say that, but it's not too much. At the end, it's nothing good, but that's the reason you need an attorney. You have to look all these little things. The appraisal. You were talking about the appraisal. Why the appraisal?
Before getting into that, all those little expenses, it would be like $1,000 between all of those items.
I think it
Maybe.
would
I think
be
it's too
less.
much. I think it's too much, but
Maybe
yeah,
less?
without the appraisal, of
Mhm.
course.
Yeah. So those little documents are just like little expenses that you have to do in order for your property to be properly registered in the public registry. And the last item, and that one that goes hand in hand with the acquisition tax because it's a percentage of the purchase price, is the appraisal, right?
Yes.
That has to be done. I've heard a lot of people saying, I don't want or I don't need the appraisal.
But they feel like normally in United States or Canada, they need an appraisal to get a mortgage. And hey, I'm paying in cash where I need appraisal, but no.
Exactly.
Remember, in Mexico, we need the three amounts in the title: cadastral value, appraisal value, and commercial value. That at the end is the purchase price.
Yeah.
So that's the reason we need the appraisal. You know.
Yeah, and that is what was the
0.003% plus taxes.
of the purchase price
But that is not the standard. That depends on every appraiser.
appraisal list.
Yeah, exactly. So it could change a little bit, but it's not a big deal. About the appraisals, the most important I think is the acquisition tax.
Because it's the biggest one.
Yeah, 3% is too much. Used to be
Yes.
2, but now it's 3.
Well, in Querétaro it's 5%.
It's 6%.
No way.
Yes,
and
it's
in
crazy.
Mexico City is 5%.
I heard Querétaro had a huge growth in these past 10
Crazy,
years.
crazy.
Yes. It's like a little Mexico City
Like a
now.
growing industry and city and
No, but
everything.
also a lot of foreigners, you know?
Mhm.
They have like race, Koreans, Japanese.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful city. I mean,
Never been
they
there.
don't have beach. They don't have the sea. But
They don't have
it
what
is
we do.
beautiful. And the food, it's also very good.
Yeah, everything close to Mexico City, the food is amazing. I don't want to say nothing about here, but you can find better food.
It's a different kind of food because peninsular food is also really good, but you have to go to Merida for that, right?
Yucatan.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. The thing that they are doing right now, the combination of the food and cuisine that
Fusion.
they have, exactly the fusion that they have is good. But like I don't want to
The
say
real
it's not a
Mexican-
republic fee.
Quesadillas of cochinita.
I don't want
pig.
problems.
Of course.
Yeah,
Let's agree to disagree.
Yeah,
what they say,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And I think, well, the last part of the notary fee, it's actually what the notary charges for that service. And again, it's a percentage of the purchase price, and it may vary. Well,
They have it's by law, you know. It's something that sometimes the client doesn't understand. Hey, I have a notary that charge me like 1,000 pesos. Man, you cannot do anything with that because at the end it's by law the fee that the notary has, and there is a chart exactly regarding the purchase price, and they have to do a calculation in accordance with the law, and with that is the fee. So if you get a notary that is really, really cheap, something is happening there, eh?
something's gonna happen. We've had this happen to us. We had one client that he said, "Oh, I got a quote from a new notary that is very, very cheap. I think I'm gonna go with them." We advised them, "Hey, looking at the chart that you're giving us, you're not gonna be able to even cover the taxes for the
No, makes sense.
municipality.
And they never pay it.
So you're gonna have trouble. Your property isn't. You're gonna do the closing. You're gonna sign, and everything's gonna be fine at that moment. But after that, your property is not going into the public registry. The taxes are not gonna be paid. So in a couple of months, you'll see that nothing was done, and
Exactly.
unfortunately, that happened.
But it's, from my point of view, it not makes sense that you are investing $200, $300, $400,000, and sometimes for $5,000 or $4,000. I know sounds like could be a lot, but at the end it's an investment, and big investment, and you are fighting for $2,000 to $3,000. That is gonna be a huge difference to secure your investment or not. You know, if you don't pay properly, as you said, the notary is not gonna pay the taxes. He's gonna keep it in their pocket, and if sometimes have a problem, at the end they're gonna wash their hands. Sorry, I do whatever is possible what you pay. If you want to pay now, it's gonna be plus a lot of fines.
Surcharges.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes that's the reason you need to hire an attorney.
I think the way to explain it would be, why would you risk, let's say, $400,000 over 2,000, right? Because
Yes.
you are putting at risk the whole investment just for $2,000 or $3,000.
Exactly.
Doesn't make sense
No
at
makes
all.
sense. No makes sense. Sometimes they have advice from another friend. Hey, I paid this. Yeah, but did you consider they paid it 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when the acquisition tax was
Taxes were different.
maybe 2%, and now when they hear that from another friends or the neighbor, they say, someone is taking advantage of me. No, it's not that. Everything change every year, you know. Just the permit of Ministry of Foreign Affairs that changed. I have a client that he paid the permit on 93, I think. He paid 5,000 pesos. He never get title in that moment, and now he's trying to reach the bank and say, hey, I already paid my permit. Give me the permit. Now the permit is almost 20,000 pesos. You know, the bank already said, hey, you have to pay the difference. I accept that you paid 5,000, but now you have to, and he didn't want to do that. You know, he's risking that.
Of course.
But they have to be sure. You have to be sure that the difference of the amount with your neighbor, with your friend, is not the same.
Yeah,
Each closing is different.
definitely. And I mean, that was the whole notary part. I hope that it's cleared, so we can now walk into
I'm
the
not
bank.
sure. we took a lot of things. It was that the notary, as you
Mhm.
said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Notary fees.
And now
Now-
we're going to the trusty bank.
Yes. Regarding the trustee bank, you have to pay the permit. As Luis was saying, actually, it's a connection idea. That it's issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So it's a by law requirement, and the amount of the cost that you have to pay for that permit is published in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs page. There are some banks that charge fee to submit and request that permit. There are some others that don't charge anything, and then they will charge additionally a fee for the service that they are providing. That it's basically to hold the trust, to hold the property on the trust on your behalf.
So it could be three concepts. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, first year per advance,
And the
And
execution fee.
execution fee. Perfect. Something that I hear or that I'm thinking about, you said some banks charge to submit the permit and some banks not. We have to consider something that we explain to the client. The bank that charge, some bank that charge, they are like cheaper fees. So now when they pay, you say, hey, looks like it's like $200 more expensive that bank. Yeah, but in the future, because the fees are less, in the future, it's gonna be better for them in the long run. They're gonna save more money if they stay with the bank that they didn't charge for that permit. You know, you have to consider that also the same thing that we were saying. For a property of 400,000 to save $200,
Yeah.
you know, it's little things. It's something that in the long run you're gonna save more money. Also, something that I hear from some attorneys, this is not directly related to this, but I think it's good to mention it, that when you are on assignment of rights, when you are gonna buy, the buyer is gonna buy already a property with a trust, the attorneys say, hey, no, cancel that trust, my client is gonna have a new trust. Why? you know, it's too expensive for both party. No makes sense in this real estate transaction. It's better. They have an assignment of rights if the bank is correct. Of course, it's with Bancomer or it's with I don't want to say it like that, but it's the reality. Bancomer, Santander, HSBC. There are banks that they are not more in the area, and it's really hard to deal with them. So that's the reason they prefer to cancel the trust and get a new one. Yes, but for example, Bajío, that is a really good bank that is in Cancun. They have a lot of people working. They speak English. It's really good. Why cancel the trust? Get an assignment of that right. It's gonna be cheaper for both parties. In fact, instead of 2,000 something, it's gonna be only 300, 400.
It's not 696 US, I think,
Really?
for the assignment.
That's
Yes.
great. You know,
Think on 1,000 US dollars instead.
They-
I mean, it
exactly.
will be the half of the cost, less than the half.
Exactly. So, you know, and it's something really good for both parties. The seller
Yes.
doesn't have to pay anything to the trustee bank, just the fees that they own, and the buyer doesn't have to pay the total amount. So, an assignment is really good depending on the bank. But normally we recommend that instead of making that you spend more money on that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That it's
Yeah, because in order to make this decision, we have to factor in a lot of things. We have to check, as you said, the bank, how many years the trust has left.
Good.
What else? If the if the annual fee of that trust is increasing every year, or if it's a fixed rate, because there are banks that put in their clauses that we're going to modify the annual fee depending on the inflation rate or whatever. And there are some banks that in their contract says this amount and that's it.
That's it.
Right? So we
Interacciones was
Yeah.
one of that.
we have
Not
to check.
anymore.
Yeah. In order to give you a proper advice, it's our job to review everything and give you that quote, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's part of the due diligence to lead your client whether they will need a brand new trust or they can keep the same trustee bank based on many facts, as Eduardo said, according to the contract, analyzing all the fees that they charge, how they regulate their own trust. That it's, again, why you need a legal advice to make a decision on that. That will save you money at the end. And a
Yeah.
lot of headache.
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason they need to hire an attorney.
I mean,
know?
it's the truth.
It's the truth, but that attorney has to be aware of all little things and have the experience of that. You know, you cannot cancel something or say, hey, no, don't worry, my client had money. That doesn't have to be about money. That has to be logic. You know, that kind of.
I have heard that.
Yeah, that kind of response like, I have a lot of money. No, it's not like that. It's to make good decisions and intelligent decisions.
Efficiency.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Yeah.
A small parenthesis, I reviewed last week a promissory contract where is a clause that binds to the client to pay the attorney fees as part of if
The
yes,
transaction.
as part of the transaction.
Yeah, like for the brokers, right? Like
Exactly.
Like for
If the owner cancels this deal, or whether he decides to not move forward, or the buyer decides to move forward, then the attorney will be paid in his fees. That it's this amount. And I was
okay.
like, okay,
Without doing
this
anything.
is something funny.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
it's the styles. I personally, I
Not even
don't
the
like
brokers
that.
get paid if that happens.
Right? But it was quoted the amount that he was
Yeah.
charging for the transaction, and that will be actually, if the buyer decided to cancel,
Yeah.
part of the fees that the seller had to pay.
He must have been a very high-end attorney, you know? One of
No,
the top.
I think it's the other side, you know.
mean-
I don't think it's like that, you know.
Yes.
It's crazy that you are putting your fees in a contract that is
I
not.
will bring my mean girl, and
Yeah.
I feel that it's really tacky.
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
put that.
exactly,
I mean-
exactly.
I'm sorry.
No, quite sorry. It's the reality. Again, it's facts.
Facts.
Yes,
They are
yes.
facts. That's
Don't
it.
disclose how much you will be charging for your services, attorneys outside there, for all the other parties. It's that relation client attorney that has to be
Yeah.
very.
But be sure that your attorney is not cheap, you know? Because also there is a red flag. You cannot
Like a
expect.
notary. Like the notary.
Yeah,
No?
yeah, exactly. Because you cannot expect to do all the work for
Nothing.
yeah, you know, it's very simple.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hear. Exactly.
Thank
for
you
a
and
thank you.
a very good meal. No?
No,
Yeah.
I hear
Doesn't make
attorneys
sense.
from Cancun that they charge for a closing like $600 and you're Cancun. How do you make the due diligence? Just the gas or to move to Playa del Carmen or something. How you can charge $600? You know, it's crazy. But be aware of that. It's a red flag. Also, it's not you have to charge like 20,000. You know,
Of course.
but it's something that makes sense.
I mean, the markets pretty much regulate that. So you see wherever you go, if you shop around with the closing cost, you'll see that much of the firms are basically around the same value, right?
No.
You think
Yeah,
they're different?
Yeah, because I there already find an attorney that is charging 1%.
No, but I mean, generally speaking, the attorneys that are dedicated
The,
to
com-
real
the
estate.
competitive ones.
The one that is doing the same.
Yeah.
You know, is they are like a feel like
Yeah.
you said. Okay.
The ones that
makes sense.
have expertise on
Yeah,
the field.
exactly, and real estate attorney, not another kind of attorney. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, I hear that you're gonna buy it. Yeah, no worries. I'm gonna charge 1%.
What?
I do labor law in the mornings and
Yeah,
real estate
real
in
estate
the
in the
afternoons.
afternoons.
Exactly.
Well,
Wow.
that was the bank, right? Now we
Yes.
get
I'm
into
sorry
the
for the
escrow.
parentheses.
Yeah.
It was good.
Uh,
So the next one that is not, it's not obligation that you have to pay, but it's really good to use in a resale. It's the escrow service. I don't know if we still have time. Awesome. So the escrow service is something that Stephanie can tell about that.
Yes, I mean, escrow it's useful for both parties, for seller and buyer. It's really a small fee, and it's a very good tool for the parties and also for the real estate agent that at the end it's offering a service and deserve to be paid. It also will save you funds in many bank fees that you have to pay if you don't use it, because at the end every amount that you pay has to go to the service provider. The trustee bank fees have to be paid to the trustee bank. The notary fees has to be paid to the notary, the legal fees to the attorney. So instead of sending money to multiple accounts, that will cost you more and will make your life really difficult if you are not very organized. I have seen clients that are sending the funds to the wrong account, and that causes a lot of stress. You are handling just one account to send all the funds related to the transaction, and the escrow takes care of paying these amounts for you. So at the end, it's a very useful tool.
Yeah, and give certainty to the both parties. If the seller had to be sure that the buyer had the funds, it's there in the escrow. They can see the funds before they close, so they are not worried. Hey, maybe they're not gonna pay. The buyer, mom, for sure it's the money there, so I can sign very calmly. And the buyer can be sure that the seller doesn't have the money yet, and that the reason to the seller to sign, so the buyer can be also calm. That is nothing is gonna happen with his money, that the seller run away or something like that. You know, that's the reason in a resale the escrow is really useful. And
awesome. Yes,
Yes.
you were saying
Yes,
that.
yes, yes. Yeah,
I
I
see that
totally.
you were thinking.
and it's really good. And finally,
No, it's good. It's awesome.
awesome. That's the best tool ever. So, and the last time, the last thing we already speak about that is your attorney's fees. Please be good with them. Be awesome with them.
Use them,
Use them.
pay them all.
He's angry because maybe he has a problem with a client. Nah, bye.